You were saying, you mentioned treatment. So is there like any follow-ups in that? Or are you still kind of filling it out, just knowing that it's an option, or like where are you at with that?
I feel like that's my first step of really healing, because I've been like on this healing journey, but I haven't feel like I've gotten nowhere. I want to say that. Just feel like I'm in a stuck place, I should say.
Mm.
And the reason why I feel stuck is because I feel like I haven't tackled what really needs to be tackled. And I feel
Mm.
like I got into a point to where I do need help. I can't do it alone. And so treatment comes in. I feel like I'm looking into that as like ASAP. And for me, that
Wow.
ASAP would be when the time is right. And for me, when my brother comes home, that would be the time is right. So I'm looking into it soon. I don't know how soon,
Mm-hmm.
but I got to just do a little bit more, as far as like what my insurance covers, like how much it is, things like that, because I know those kind of things could be pricey if you, especially if you don't have insurance. So, or if your insurance doesn't cover it. But I've already taken a step to my insurance does cover it. Now I just got to find me a place where my insurance is taken. Um, so
Oh
that's
wait,
where
you
I'm
just
at
said
with
that your
treatment.
insurance does cover it?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so now you have to find a place where the place takes your insurance. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Yes. No, that's where I'm at with the treatment part.
So
I'm ready to tackle it.
when you I don't know what all of who've all you've talked to yet, or like what all you've asked, but what does treatment consist of? Is it like an outpatient, inpatient? Like what does that look like?
It's either or. They have options for both. I feel like the one that's more effective for me, would be inpatient. Being there, um, getting that one-on-one, hands-on help. Because I mean, but you never know once I get there and then like get to a point to where now I can do outpatient things like that. Talk to a therapist. Talk to somebody who's dealt with eating disorders, so I can get to the nitty gritty of where this started, why it started, um, and be able to move that way. And like I said, I feel like the most effective way would be inpatient personally right now where I'm at.
Period. You know what I love is whether you experienced denial in the past or whatever. I love that right now in this season because you just talked about your journey and where you're at in your kind of like at a standstill. I love that. A positive is that you are still taking steps. And this is one of them, and instead of being, in denial, a lot of people, once they hear any sort of rehab or treatment programs, they clock out. They're like, I'm going to handle it my own way. It's not that bad. I got it, or I don't want to, or I'm scared, or it's not the right time. Like they just have their list of reasons for why it's going to be a no. So, going on to your healing journey, I know you may feel like you're not doing certain things or enough or whatever, but this is a really big step. Acknowledgement in itself is like 20 steps, like, period. So I just love that for you.
Yes, thank you. I agree. It's not easy. It's for sure not easy, but I feel like I've been in the denial and been suffering for just so long, let alone suffering in silence. I feel like there's nothing worse than suffering in silence, man. Um, but yeah, I just feel like it's been way too long. I feel like I've been on that type of time where like I can do it on my own, or it's not that bad. I'm not suffering from that, or just all of that for way too long. To where
Yeah.
I'm at a point in my life where like I want to be able to be healed, fully, and be able to not destruct myself in silence where nobody knows I'm suffering. So yeah, I just is ready for that really fresh start, that new beginning. Because like me trying to heal and trying to like just get on this journey of what the journey that I'm on. I just got to a point to where, like, I can't tackle anything else until I tackle the root. And now that I know what the root is, we got to tackle that. So everything else after that, I feel like once that's tackled, everything else will just fall in place, and I'll be able to really, really get the fulfillment from everything, if that makes sense.
That makes perfect sense, girl. And I'm so excited for you to start that, to get more answers. I hope you find a beautiful center that is able to assist with you. And you know what, too? Even support groups. To be able to lean on people, support people, have people support you, and just more so have the rapport, that natural rapport. Like for me and you I can give my insight or thoughts, but like there's nothing like somebody who actually has gone through exactly what you go through to supply all the more comfort. So I'm just happy that you're really weighing out your options. And another thing too is just an idea, and I'm sure you'll go through all of these sorts of routes with an actual licensed professional, but even still weighing out, like how you said, because you started off by saying I think it may be a stomach issue, but it could very well be this eating disorder. So still following up, getting, ultrasounds, x-rays, and certain things to get a good look at something in your body, because it's so crazy how there's so many diagnoses that have identical symptoms and side effects.
Right.
And you're thinking, it could be this whole time, it could be a whole nother thing. So definitely weighing out all options, but I still love that you're taking the time out of your busy day and your life to put, yourself on hold to really do yourself a service by checking out in the way that you are. Because there's so many people that'll have a whole life, whether it be kids or they're in school or they have a career, and they're like, oh, I can't, pour into myself in that way because I'm doing this right now. It's like, I just love that you're putting yourself first, and this is very, very important. I'm just proud of you.
Yeah, for so long, that was me. For so long, that was me.
You're not lying.
Damn near all my life.
Yeah,
I'm 26
she's not lying
now, so at 26, I'm finally just really getting to that point to where, yeah, for sure, it's time to not be in silence anymore and just be acceptance, not be embarrassed. People go through, not only, there's people who's going through what I'm going through, but not only that, but worse, more severity. And like you said, I don't have a diagnosis, so I don't know if that's what I'm actually suffering from, but it could be a high possibility.
Mm-hmm.
That could be something. If not that, it's something else that's for surely something serious that is going on with my stomach for sure. But definitely, girl. But other than that, I feel like addiction could be, like I say, literally be anything. There's other things that you can suffer from, and I feel like a lot of times addiction doesn't get talked about because of the embarrassment or because of the judgment or man, it's just so many different reasons why a lot of people can suffer in silence. Let alone just talking about it out loud. Like I said, this is like my first time even hearing my own self talk about it. Besides the time I just told you I told my brother, that was literally the first time. And I boo-hoo cried damn near the whole time. And that's why I think I'm able to talk about it now without getting as emotional. But, and the more you talk about it, I just encourage anybody who is going through anything like this, who just to just start, just to talk about it, even if you're talking to yourself out loud, like outside of your head, because we all have voices in our head, and just being honest and being upfront, to go ahead and tackle that addiction that you're dealing with. But then you have to also be in a space to where you're ready to tackle it And going to back to that point, maybe when you did ask me during that time, that season, not only did I have knowledge, but I wasn't. I don't think I was ready to tackle the truth, face the truth of reality. At that moment as well. So you definitely have to be ready to come, be prepared for what's going to come, like the ugly, the truth, all of it. Any more questions?
I kind of have a few. I just had one that just like I was trying to listen to you at the same time. So I kind like let me think. Let me think what it was. Um, oh, it wasn't okay. So it wasn't a question, or maybe I'll form it into a question at the end. But it was like an observation. So I don't really know how much of your background you want to talk about today, but there was. I'll share this, but I'll let me know if you feel comfortable with it. But you know, everybody has their story. Everybody has their struggles and things like that. And so me being a friend, um, and very close with you, there was a lot of stuff that you did go through to where maybe your your eating in general just wasn't at its best. And so and I mean more so like even what you chose to eat. And so for a while there, going to maybe like around the time that she was having a hard time, and then pulling her own self out of it, from relocating to stop smoking weed. I mean, there were so many turnarounds that she was doing just within the last couple of months to really the last year. And so I remember all the changes that she was implementing in her life. um I was always thinking in the back of my head, because like, your friends, anybody who knows me knows I suffer from anxiety. So one of the things that I know Joyce suffers with was her stomach issue, or is her stomach issues, and how often she would get sick. And so when she was making all these changes, I was so excited because I was like, oh my god, well maybe she'll start to notice that she doesn't feel as sick. And or even just getting new better established from relocating to now you're with your brother, and your sister-in-law. And so I was so happy with the atmosphere that she was provided in that way. And then I was so excited because I was like, okay, like she'll be able to, eat, I guess, a lot more healthier. And then you cut out smoking. And so I just thought it was going to be a matter of time, before maybe you noticed that you were feeling better, like your gut was feeling better. So, with that being said, do you feel a little better, or is it still not so much better? And you don't like just be completely open and honest.
Yeah, for sure. Um, so for me, I think I have like moments. Um, when I definitely first got out here, and start making the changes with the smoking cigarettes down to the weed, down to like eating certain different foods. And during those times, especially when I was eating, let alone just eating, because when I was smoking, I would barely eat, and then what I would eat would be trash. So when those changes started to happen, I did notice a little bit as far as not getting as sick as much, as frequently as I was getting, but I still would, or felt sick, if that makes sense. But it didn't last long. It didn't last long because I feel like that was temporary. And I was like, I didn't fully change. For one, I didn't fully change my eating habits. I definitely got like rid of a lot of things, but I didn't fully change or stayed consistent with my eating habits. So but to answer you, I could see a change a little bit, but not like crazy, and it's still ongoing. But the one thing I could say that kind of like made me even say like I don't know if it could be the eating disorder or if possibly could be something else, or whatever the case is. But because it's like I'll give that 1%. Because it's not every single time I eat, I feel like I got to fill up, or I feel I got to get rid of it, or whatever the case is. But I probably just that 1%. where I may can hold something down and it don't come up, or even then, yeah, I'm gonna leave that at that. Probably like that 1%, because it's not, like I said, every single time, but damn near 99% of the time. I don't know what it is, but yeah.
If you don't mind me asking, if you could put a number on it, how many times a day?
It just depends on how many times I eat a day. That's really the best answer I can give you, because even with me not smoking, like when I first stopped smoking, I could eat. I was eating maybe 2-3 times a day. But even now, like I'm back to that once a day type thing, eating, if that, maybe twice, if that, like highly, barely twice, but mainly 1 time a day. So yeah, it just depends. And sometimes it's not even just when I'm eating. Like I could feel sick, like in the morning time, I could get nauseous. Yeah, it just depends.
Okay.
It just depends. Now, I'll give you an example. If I eat 3 times a day, probably all 3 of those times, if not 2.
Okay.
And
So
I feel like it definitely has for one, I know one of the reasons is the choice of food. And I know, let alone it's that, I want somebody who I can get help from, so I can identify what it is. I know, for one, I need to change my eating habits, like, fully.
mm-hmm.
And I might even need to change it, like, just a whole 360, where I just can't touch certain foods, like, at all. So yeah, my nephew was knocking at the door, and he asked me to shout out his podcast. His YouTube channel.
Shout it out. Hey, no, tell him to shout it out. Bring him in. All
right.
We're about to do a little shout out, you guys. Tell him to say it with his chest.
Thank you for that. You're so sweet. Shout out your podcast. Your YouTube. And make sure you say it with your chest.
Hey, yo, my YouTube, Zoob's World. Make sure to go follow me on YouTube.
Period. Follow. Subscribe. Thumbs up. What kind of content do you do?
I do a lot of gaming, content and some IRL videos on my stream, drop. So make sure to go follow.
Definitely. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's so exciting.
Shout out moment.
I love a creator.
But yeah, girl. But that's my little insight. If you have any more questions, not even necessarily questions, just anything else you want to add on to that, let me know. And for me, I feel actually kind of good. I feel good. I thought I would feel a lot different, like uncomfortable, embarrassed, awkward. But if I could be completely honest, I don't feel any of those things. Those are the things that I literally would, like, kind of put into my own head that I was going to feel. But I actually feel like free, if that makes sense.
I love that you feel free, girl. On the podcast, off the podcast, I hope talking with me, you feel that way. But I love that in this moment you feel that way. Yeah, I'm happy for that. And I can relate in the exact same way. Like, not to change it too much, but when you were asking about addiction, and you were telling me that you were basically saying in a nutshell that addiction could be well past what we normalize to be addiction. So drugs, alcohol, relationships, gambling, it's a wide variety of it. And so, one of them that people don't often talk about, but we still know is a thing, is an eating disorder. But as we were talking about this, I kind of was thinking to myself, well, is there anything that I feel addicted to? And I'll kind of say my one thing I could think of, and you let me know what you feel.
Mm-hmm.
So I would have to think more, I guess, if there's a variety that, resonates with me. But I have a very bad habit of racing thoughts, overthinking, and obsessing. And I don't really know if obsessing and addiction are different, or similar. Maybe they have similar things, But for me, I could say that I will probably obsess about something, so much so to where I will have physical effects from it. So I'll feel sick, I'll get anxious, shortness of breath, things like that. And then that could also trigger panic. So it's crazy because, for the most part, like if you um and I obsess more so over negative things. It's not like a person or whatever. It's just like thoughts, ideas, past scenarios, stuff like that. And it's crazy because, like, if there's something that you don't like in life, usually you want to steer far from it. And I feel like I do a pretty good job at that. But the idea of that specific thing will race in my head. So I don't know if you feel like that is more so an addiction, because I feel like it isn't. But I'll let you go ahead and give your input.
As an addiction, I don't know necessarily. I don't know. I don't know if I would label that as an addiction, but I definitely would say I don't know how to labelize that, but I definitely believe that it's something that you could be suffering from, because that does have a big effect on you. Like, I mean, it could be something like these example, the roach, the whole way to the car, the idea of that roach possibly coming to you in your facility, close to you, it made your mood, and you were so nervous, so uncomfortable. But
I'm glad
like
you feel so comfortable on my podcast where you could be talking about my water bugs. I'm glad.
Outside, come on. I'm so sorry if I pushed them. Girl, don't do that, because I'm sorry. Damn. I'm just being open. I'm sorry.
No, you good, girl. I'm glad. I'm glad that you're just so comfortable. Go ahead. You're not lying. You're not lying. I was tripping. Go ahead.
No, but like I don't want my words to get misconstrued, because that's not like I only use that example because that's the most recent one, and that's the one I just thought about off the top of
No,
my
yeah,
head.
you guys. She's not tripping. Some context. The other night, I think it was like Friday night, Saturday night. I told her I was hungry and that I wanted to go get something to eat, but I knew I didn't want to because it was a whole thing. It was dark. I didn't want to lose a parking spot. It was a whole thing, right? So I go downstairs and I'm tripping because depending on what area you live in state, out of state, whatever, and it's hot in that area or it's humid, you'll see water bugs, which it falls into the category of the roach family. And so I was tripping, like not just tripping because I saw it, I was obsessed with the idea, like the whole way to my car, the whole drive to get something to eat, and Joyce is on the phone with me, and my mood was just taken off, and I was like, oh my god, like, is it on me, like, what if I step outside, what would I park, and it's gonna be everywhere, and it was a whole thing. But anyway, go ahead.
And so I feel like that happens a lot with like anything, right? And then my point of bringing that whole thing up was the fact that in the outcome, like the whole time she was psyched herself out, she didn't come across one on her way back at all. And so that whole time, so nervous, and it made her feel so uncomfortable when it didn't have to be. But that obsession, that what you just said about what you can think it could be a addiction, I just think that you can be suffering from something. I don't know what it could be called, but it's definitely something that's unsettling and uncomfortable, I feel like, to have to experience, because I never want to, it makes me, like, when she's in that type of mood, and I feel like with anybody you care about is hurting or upset or anything that in any way in that nature, you want to help any way you can. And I feel like for her, with that part of her life, I feel like she's the only person that can really help. Or I don't know. It's like I know what I'm trying to say, but it's not coming out right. See, this, guys, just an example. This is why I love the fact that how she did her last one is because I didn't I didn't know I was being recorded. I didn't know that people are going to be listening, so I didn't have to overanalyze what I'm about to say. And that's something that I need to work on. That's a me problem. But yeah, yeah. I feel like I'm overanalyzing and overthinking right now.
Before we started this, mind you, we've been supposed to do a second episode, which is the episode you guys are listening to right now. We've been supposed to be doing this for weeks, like at least 2 weeks. And even before I filmed her without knowing, once she knew I had a podcast, we were talking about bringing her on an episode. So we were already talking about the idea of like future episodes for a hot minute. So then I secretly record her. I get permission that it was good. And I told her, like, would you want to do another one with me? And she was like, yeah, of course. Like, I'm definitely down. Love that, whatever. And I was like, girl, I know how you are. And you know how you are. So you'll know, though. You'll know that you're being recorded. So please just say what you will, how you want to. Don't overthink it. And she's like, you already know I'm going to overthink it. I'm going to try not to and everything. It was so funny. It was so funny. But it's good. Like,
but I think
that
I did
was
good for the most part. I think I did good for the most part.
absolutely, girl. I feel like I'm most proud of you when you were talking about you. But another part that I want to say really quick is if you go all the way back to my first video, I even said, um, I'm so happy to be starting up a podcast because it's going to teach me to use and speak with intent. You know, so like I was tripping up on my words. I still trip up on my words, but I feel like the more you do it, the more maybe you're even on here, it will start to get natural because you're kind of like challenging yourself in a sense. So, and also trusting yourself, allowing whatever higher good you believe in to really be speaking through you at that same time. So just kind of trust it. Like, whether you may feel like all week she was talking to me and she's like, I don't know if that makes sense. And I was like, girl, it makes perfect sense. Like, just keep going. Like, stop trying to psych yourself out. But yeah.
Definitely. And like you said, I agree 1,000% what you said. The more you do it, the more it's just going to become secondhand nature. And you're going to continue to grow and build your podcast. I'm just so honored to be able to be a guest on here and be able to have this experience on Moody Booty Podcast. It's such a vibe. It's such a vibe. I just can't wait till we're in person on the podcast, actually. But even now, it's such a vibe, y'all. With her by herself or with her with guests. Like, I love it.
Oh, and also, I want to give you your flowers. Joyce is definitely very much a behind the scenes girly. Like, when it comes to this podcast or even my main YouTube channel, she's always hitting me up, like, on the random, whether it be in text or on the phone, like, oh, and your next episode, I really think that here's an idea, you should talk about this, or, you know, like, how do you feel about talking about this? Like, she definitely feeds into what we're doing. So I love that. Like, just today's topic in specific was her idea completely, you know, and she brought this up to me last week. And then, you know, next time we film, whenever that happens, I know she said she wanted to touch on abandonment, which I'm very interested to hear about that. And I'm excited because I feel like that will definitely go more into, at least for me, I feel like that will go into our last episode that we did together, when we talked about the absence of a father, you know?
Yes.
Yeah. Girl, okay, really quick. Did you, and no rush at all, but what I'm about to say goes into the segments that I just filmed with my mom. Did you watch any of them?
Not yet.
Okay. Well, I talked about you. You'll see it when you watch it, but I talked about you because, so one of the things that me and Joyce talked about, or that I shared with her on our last episode, I was talking about not only my experiences with not having a relationship with my dad, but the experiences or my thoughts about my mom. And so I say that to say me and my mom just filmed a couple podcast episodes actually, and well, it was actually one episode filmed, but I broke it up into 3 different episodes. And anyways, I'd let her know. I was just like, hey, at the end of it, I was like, hey, just let you know, like, I really do want to do a deep dive on myself, and I just want to let you know that I'll probably be bringing up my story, and that may consist of you and X, Y, and Z. So I was happy that I said that, because yeah, I don't know. I feel like there's just like a lot to sort out for me as well, and that's what I brought up to you in the beginning of me and like our talk is like I appreciate this podcast and what I want to do, because I feel like it's going to help. Me speaking for me right now, I feel like it's going to help sort out my own shit as well. You know,
Your inner child. Mm-hmm.
all of it. Yeah.
Yes, I agree 1,000%. And I know, like you said on our the first one we did, your concern was you were kind of hesitant a little bit on even speaking about or opening up about yourself or about your past, or just your upbringing or anything like that could still be affecting your adulthood. Because Alicia's such a caring person. Like, when I say Demna the most, like, she beat me. I know I'm a caring person, and I love deeply and all of that, but she beat me for sure.
No,
and
no.
Yeah, for sure.
No. Joyce is top tier.
No. We got different levels to it. You feel me? But when the part that I'm speaking on, she beat me on, like, when it comes down to just making sure she's not hurting anybody's feelings, just anything like that. So the fact that you were able to tell your mom that, just give her a heads up, like, and then so you can be fully open and comfortable, because I feel like you're the type of person that will leave out a lot of things because you don't want the next person to be felt some type of way. But like we said in the last one, these are healthy conversations to be had, whether you'd have it by yourself and be vulnerable and speak on the podcast about your testimony, whether whoever's involved, because at the end of the day, it's your testimony, and that's how you went through it, and that's how you felt while going through it. Not to hurt somebody else's feelings, or not to downplay what you did have or what was there, but it's okay to talk about the things that affected you, because a lot of those things may not have been talked about until they've been harbored, and that's why that inner child still sometimes come out in your adulthood, because they were never addressed, or because you were never able to speak on it out loud, and it's always that void from inside.
So I was overthinking it, and I don't want to say overthinking it, but I guess I was. I guess I'll say overthinking it. I wanted to kind of make it sound better, but I feel like I was in my head a lot about how I would make, in this instance, in that episode, how I would make my mom feel. Right? And so little did I know, she, which is the spoiler alert to you, she ended up confessing something on the podcast about how she felt about me. And it was such a big one that hit home to me. Anyway, so the spoiler alert, so I'm talking with her, and me and her were talking about, like, maybe her lack of affection and, attention and stuff like that, right? And so she was saying, she's like, you know what, Elijah? She's like, me and you were so rah. She's like, we didn't get along. And she's like, I feel like the relationship that we had just made it hard for me to want to show you affection and stuff like that. And so I was like, but you didn't do it with me, Tay, or Isaiah. And she was like, yeah, but I think she's like, I literally just had this conversation the other day. She's like, I feel like it's because I knew it was so hard to give to you that I just didn't do it to them, because I didn't want you to also feel left out. And I was just like, wow. And she's like, I'm just being completely honest. I was like, for sure. So that happened. Yeah, that happened. And what's so crazy is me and my mom had such a good time. Like, the whole conversation that we had, like, it was so great, right? So great. It was funny. We got somewhere. But it was crazy because me watching the episodes back, and you'll probably notice and see it too, I laughed a lot. Meaning, I feel like when it was all happening, I feel like I wasn't taking it all in. And so it was almost like me watching it the many times that I watched it now that it's up and edited and posted. It's almost hitting a little more where I'm just like, huh. And it almost just kind of makes me think, okay, well, back then when I was thinking these things or when I did feel these ways, it was coming from a place. At least I know I'm not crazy or tripping when she let me
Mm-hmm.
know, like, yeah, girl, like, I didn't do it. And like, we're on the same page here because yeah, no. You know what I mean? So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, anyways, I wanted to share that with you because it was just like full circle moment for me. Like, okay, like, well, yeah, you guys. I don't really know. Like, did you want to talk about some more stuff or how you feeling? How's time for you?
I'm cool. Oh, it is 6 o'clock.
You gotta wake them
How
babies
long
up,
did how
girl.
long have we been recording?
Girl, a minute. A minute.
Okay, cool. Now let me ask you a question. How do you feel on the, knowing that you asked me those times that year ago and coming to realization and hearing what I've said? Do you feel any way, anything at all?
Um, you know, I'll say two things. Um, one of the ways that I feel is now that I know, right? I feel like naturally I'll probably be okay. You say your piece, no judgment. Hopefully, I can say my piece, no judgment.
Yes.
Okay. I feel like the first part I want to say is I feel like I'll be more on guard, on go, feeling like wondering, like hey, like especially when you're here. That's my first initial thing, right? My second thing though to kind of counter that is as a friend and a loved one and a supporter to you, I want to do my best to not only, when I say research, I mean research the struggles that come with this, but more so education and knowledge on how I could be my best supporter to you. Me reaching, I'm sure that there's support groups for everything, but also just having knowledge, like how do I communicate with this person? How can I support this person? How can I understand what she's going through the best way that I can to where I can approach the situation with calmness, grace, patience, um, and in that way. So that's more of, I feel like, how I feel about it. Just me wanting to be my best self for you. It just, I feel like for me, I will say probably be difficult for me than the average Joe because I have such a phobia to throw up. So that'd be like, versus like maybe Theron or Shunker or whoever else who just genuinely don't give a fuck about throw up. They're like, it is what it is. Like, she's getting sick. Who cares? I do that shit too, type shit. But for me, I'm just like, oh my God, like, is she okay? What does she need? Just take this pill. Like, just take 5 times. You'll be fine. And, it's deeper rooted than that. It's not just that. So, yeah, for me, it's just, in a nutshell, I
Interesting.
think education and support is what I need to do.
Wow. That's interesting to hear. I appreciate that. That's actually really interesting to hear. But to elaborate a little bit more on your phobia, and for her, with her throw up phobia, it's not like get the fuck away from me type shit. I mean, it is that, but it's like at the same time, it's like like she just said, she wants to damn near doctor you, want to make sure it would give you anything.
Yeah.
What do you need? Like that type of phobia, like where she just wants to make sure you're good. Like she don't like nobody really hurting. Period. Especially when it comes down to your stomach getting sick. Now, for me, knowing how you are is, I hope that I hope that I'll be able to tackle it before we do encounter it again. So you won't have to feel like every time I go to the bathroom, is she throwing up? Is she throwing up? type of thing, or anything like that. I wouldn't want to have you feel, like you said, on go, pretty much. So I would love if I, but with our plans coming up, I just don't know if that would happen then. But just know when we do encounter, I'm still the same Joyce. I just have something that I need to take care of that is definitely affecting me, more than I know, and more than I realize. Like I said, for so many years, I pushed it to the side, and not even put too much thought into it. Like, it could be something that I need help with or take care of.
I'm just letting you know that whether I'm going to try to work on myself, either which way. I'm going to try to work on myself to be better, to be able to approach your situation as best as I can, right? So that's what I want to say. My second thing I want to say is thank you so much for coming onto a platform to speak about something that you're going through in the beginning stages of you going through it. I know you said that you've dealt with it for a while, but the figuring out process of it all is still very fresh. So I'm just happy that you are able to come on here and be your free self and sharing such vulnerable pieces, you know, and like when people hear certain disorders, like eyes turn and ears open and it's very, I guess, taboo in a sense. So I'm happy that you feel comfortable enough in an uncomfortable situation to come on here. Like, so grateful not only to open up to me as a friend. You guys, this was the very first time that she did a double whammy. She told me for the first time and on the podcast at that. So and then if you just knew Joyce, you just know, like, this is such a big deal. So I just want to say that I'm just grateful that you trusted me with this. And I had a really, really great time, like, overall, period, point, fucking blank. I hope that you come back on the podcast, whether we touch more on this. We would love to hear the progress, anything that you would want to share in the future, updates, stuff like that. I'm not going to over talk. We will, because there will be another episode. We will see you guys in the next Moody Booty podcast episode. Bye!